Welcome back to Maria Orsic's Ritual, episode 2, and I will be picking up the story of how I met the greatest woman who's ever lived, the greatest dancer that has ever lived. Hail Mama, the great ballerina. And I will be soon, perhaps the next episode, I will be describing Mother's Ritual. Everyone wants to know, what can I do practically? Tell me what to do as a spiritual practice. That is what a ritual is. It's a spiritual practice. And I will be describing to you Maria's ritual. Her mantra is remember, recover, return. She is the mother goddess. Hail Maria, hail Maria, hail Nana. She is the wife of Quetzalcoatl. She is the queen of Atlantis. She is the Missouri River goddess. She's the greatest woman ever. Last episode, introduction to how I met Maria in this reality timeline. I left off at myself going back to bed after a Maria's UFO hovering above the weeping willow tree and speaking to me. The next morning, I woke up with such joy in my heart, you might say. I could not wait to tell my mother. And I want people to understand, the 7-year-old boy from Missouri, from St. Louis, Missouri, Spanish Lake, Missouri, thought he had great news for the world and that it would make his mother, his friends at school, and the world happy. And I got dressed and went out to the kitchen table where every morning my mother would make me breakfast. And I said, "Did you see the UFO in our backyard last night, Mom?" I remember that I did not look at her when I said this. And I remember smiling to myself, thinking that it was going to be a happy event, this revealing what had happened the night before. And she said, she stopped above me as I was sitting in a chair at the table. And she said, "What are you talking about? Stop kidding around." I said, "No, Mom, really. There was a UFO above the tree in our backyard last night." And then I could hear her voice, and she was looking at me, but I didn't look at her. And she said, "Stop. You're starting to scare me." I said, "Mom, that's the whole thing. The UFO, a lady was inside of it, and I could hear her speaking to me in my mind." She said, "Joe, that's not funny. Did this really happen?" And then she sat down at the other chair and tried to look at me in the eyes. So I looked up at her and I said, "Yes, I wouldn't make this up." Jesus said, "But you have been joking before, and UFOs are not real, Joe. There are no aliens. That's just in the movies. It doesn't really exist." I said, "That's what happened. It was a nice lady. And as a 7-year-old boy, I knew not to tell her that she said she was my real mother. I knew it would hurt her feelings, or I believed it would hurt her feelings. So I just said, I talked to the lady on the UFO. I seen her in the window, and we waved to each other. I said, she's very nice, and she came because she cares about me and knows that sometimes I don't feel right." And this was my first glimpse that it might go wrong. I felt my mom's feeling when she said, "Oh my God. Oh my God." And I knew she meant, is he crazy? Is my son crazy? And she sat back down and said, "Joe, look at me. Are you making this up?" Then I got a little scared, and I thought maybe I should tell her I'm making it up. And I literally thought, no, I know that I woke up. So I said to her, "I'm not making it up. I know that I wasn't dreaming." And she said, "That's right. You were dreaming. Joe, you were dreaming. That's what happened." She said, "Tell me what happened." And I told her the story of going to the window, and she was like, "See, you were dreaming." And in my little mind, I thought, maybe it's better for her to think that. And I said to her, maybe I was dreaming. I said, but all I know is the UFOs are not scary monsters that stick needles in your stomach. they're very nice, very loving, very sweet, loving people. I remember as I was walking or being driven just to school, which was just 1 mile away, just being silent and just knowing my mother wanted to say over and over, was there really a UFO in our backyard? And me saying, I guess I was dreaming. But Joe, was there really a UFO? Yes, there really was. And so I thought my next thoughts were my new friends. I had just started. I had just, as I said, entered the 2nd grade. I think literally it was one of the first days of that school year. And I had to wait till lunch, and I said, at lunch we were eating, and I was hesitating from talking about it. Like, are they gonna react like my mom did? And I thought, there's one friend at this table who I didn't know so well, but he was like my best friend. And his name was Scott. So at the lunch table, I said, hey, have you guys seen the Close Encounters UFO movie? I believe it was that one. Some UFO movie that was famous at that time. I said, hey, have you guys ever seen that movie? And I believe, from what I remember, is someone said yes. I have seen that. I said, did that scare you? And I believe he said yes. And I remember being like, really scared me too. I was really scared of UFOs. And I said, you guys aren't going to believe this, but last night there was a UFO came to my house, and the best thing happened. They weren't evil. They were not evil. They were really nice, and they were fun. I said, I wanted to be expressed to them like, it helped me. I feel better because of the UFO in my backyard. And I will never, ever again forget the silent nothing that came over the table. Of like, no one said anything, and I felt the blankness of the situation. And one kid said, you're making that up. You're just kidding, right? And I felt like the whole thing with my mother cycle had started again. And I said, I'm not making it up. I thought I was dreaming, but I'm sure the lady on the UFO woke me up. I said, all I want to really tell you guys is the people on the UFOs are not evil. They don't want to hurt us. She came because she cared about me. And I was like, it doesn't matter. I said, I'm not making it up, but it don't matter if you think I'm making it up. And then my 7-year-old feelings were being crushed because of my expectation of thinking it would make people happy, my experience. And also the experience had made so much sense to me because of what the lady told me, that she was my real mother, and that I existed before I was born. A 7-year-old child can understand that. But I was coming to understand that no one would believe that I understood that. So we threw away our lunches and ran out to the playground. And when we first walked out there, we would stand in the middle of the basketball courts and decide what we were going to do. A group would have a ball and start playing kill the man with the ball. Or there was a tether ball on a cord on a pole, and we would stand there and hit that thing. Well, what I remember is standing there alone thinking about the UFO. And almost like a scripted movie, my second grade friend, who we didn't have our homeroom class together, so we would meet at lunch. He walked up to me and said, "I believe you." And we both laughed. I said, "Do you believe me? You do believe me?" He said, "I don't know if you were dreaming or it was real, but I believe you, that something happened to you." And he said, "And I understand you were trying to tell us, whether it was a dream or real, that the movies are wrong and there's nothing to be afraid of." I said, I smiled and patted him on the back. And that's the last I remember talking about the UFO until, and looking back and remembering and recovering and returning to that moment, the UFO in my backyard most definitely started a fire of strange experiences for a 7-year-old boy without anyone to talk to, without anyone to advise the little boy on the context of what was happening. Until a month or so into second grade, my teacher, Mrs. Grinnell, a elderly woman with dyed black hair, who was probably in her 60s, who was very mean and always in a bad mood and just scary in her voices and her anger, and just like a angry nanny. Well, we were all pretty traumatized by her, but one day in the boys' bathroom, something big was going on with one Chris. I can't remember his last name, but me, Pat, a redhead kid, and a few other kids. We were just in there, and Chris started doing something and telling us not to go out of the bathroom. So we all stood there, whatever we were doing. The teacher busted into the bathroom, started screaming, and took Patrick by his neck, pushed him against the wall, and started choking him, or at least from my point of view, she was choking him. And he started screaming, "Don't you touch me. My dad said, don't you touch me." And it was traumatic for a second grader. I had rarely seen anyone so angry. And the next day, I was called into the principal's office with I was taken to my counselor, one young blonde lady, but I can't recall her name, but I can remember what she looks like. And she started asking me, "What happened yesterday? What did Mrs. Grinnell do?" And I told her exactly what I had seen. Except I didn't tell her all of what I'd seen, because I was such a little boy. I didn't understand the world yet. And so she took me to the principal, and he sat me down, and he sat right in front of me, and he said, "Now, tell me exactly what you've seen." And as a 7-year-old boy, I was taking this so serious. I thought I was testifying before, like, the Supreme Court or something. This was the first time I had any run-in with authority figure, the principal. And so when he asked me, I went back in my mind automatically to photographically remember what happened. And I was telling him, we did something bad in the bathroom. We stuffed paper towel. Chris stuffed paper towels in one of them and kept flushing it over and over. And we were all standing there laughing, and Mrs. Grinnell ran in and started screaming. I said, and she grabbed Patrick by the throat. I said, and as she did, I said, a black smoke man came out of her, and she started choking Patrick. And he stopped me. He said, "What did you say?" "Black smoke man." I said, "Well, when she came in, there was a shadow smoke man that was following her. And he was on the side of her. And when she went to grab Patrick, the smoke man went in her, and it was the smoke man's arms that grabbed Patrick and started choking him. And he stopped, he touched my leg and stopped me, and he looked at the counselor, and they both smiled. I said, that's all I remember. That's what I remember seeing. I said, "You asked me what I saw." And everyone in the room was smiling. There was another lady there, and everyone was smiling at me. And he said to me, "Hey, Joe," he said, don't be afraid to tell me, but have you ever seen the smoke man before?" I said, "I think so." I said, "I think that the smoke man does that to my mom at home sometimes, and I think to my stepdad. And they said, "Oh, really?" They said, "What about, is anything else weird? Anything else strange, out of the ordinary, ever happened at your home?" And not even thinking, not even blinking an eye, I said, "Well, when school first started, a UFO came to my house above the tree in my backyard and told me they were nice and told me they cared about me, and it was a lady." And he smiled from ear to ear and looked at the counselor lady, and he patted my knee and he said, you just go ahead and tell your counselor that story, that whole story." And he stopped one more time and he said, "Is that the only time that you ever seen a UFO?" And they laughed, and I did not understand it all, what was happening? And I said yes, and he left with them all smiling. And my counselor said, would you like to talk to me about that? And I told her the whole story that my mother told me. And while I was telling her, I understood as a child, she doesn't believe a word that I'm telling her. She just wants me to tell her as proof that I am crazy and that I need help. And this crushed the 7-year-old boy because I really liked the counselor. And I kind of liked the principal. But then I understood he was smiling because he did not believe me. And he said, have you ever seen the UFO before? Because he did not believe me. I said to myself, they're playing a game, acting like they're believing me and that they're on my side, and like another voice spoke to me and said, they are dangerous. Don't tell them anything else. And so I stopped my story and I said to the counselor, I said, I don't mean to do this, but I made that all up. I just made that up. And I said, I just like to make up stories. And she said, well, we knew that. We knew that. She said, it's fine, Joe. And I thought in my mind, little does she know that I know that she's being fake. And my point is, we must all question everything and everyone in every situation and every thought. One of Maria's most impressive creative ways of teaching was when she taught me that everything I experience with my 5 senses is an illusion, including the people. They are not real. The only people you are truly connecting to are the people you knew before you came here. You had made promises, taken vows. Those people are the only people that can help you in your personal escape from the hologram. They're the only people that can give you love that is not temporary, give you anything that's not temporary. Because if you are not on the path out of here, the warrior's path out of here, you will die. You will be confused by the greatest black, dark magicians into agreeing to try it again and repeat your life over. And it's all a trick. You only through Maria's ritual can you break the circles of repeating rounds of life in the hologram. Hail Maria, Hail Maria. Thank you to Maria, and may Odin, Wotan, Lucifer, Vishnu, and the Mother Goddess Maria bless you, our people.